Welcome back. I'm starting with a page that I sewed for a cover that says the end because it's going to be the back of my book, but I want to remind you that if you're sewing two pieces together to make the cover for your book, let's say I have this 4-patch piece and I have this embroidered denim that I want to make the back cover out of. This is the back, this is the front. I want to put front sides facing. So the back sides are out, the front sides are inside. And that's because in this example here, you can see I sewed, well, maybe you can't see it really well because it's white thread. I sewed a U shape through all of my layers. I leave this side open, and then I cut the corners so that it's not too bulky when we turn it inside out. And then I will say this one actually has 3 layers, and you'll see why I'm showing you that in a moment. When we turn it inside out, then the seams go on the inside, so just like turning a sock inside out. I think in class we talked about using a pencil or a chopstick, or even the end of your seam ripper if it has the cap on it. So I can take a pencil and stick it inside and help push out those corners after I've cut them so they're nice and pointy, or as pointy as they're going to be there. Push it out, push it out. And now you can see I have patchwork front on one side and another piece of patchwork. This is just 2 pieces, these purple flowers and this brown stripe, 2 pieces. Now this one is like I was telling you to do for our middle page. So we have our cover that is just 2 pieces, but our center page is actually going to be a quilt, which means it has fabric on one side, fabric on the other side, and a lining fabric that we call a batting. So if I turn this back out so you can see the order, I'm going to show you what order to put your layers together if you are going to make the center page for your book. I'm going to call this the top layer, and the front side is inside here facing the bottom layer, which is also front side facing. So it's the same as I did with these two, front sides facing. But I've added the 3rd layer, and what's a little tricky is thinking about the 3rd layer going on the bottom if you want it to be inside. So I would say this is the front side of the front. This is the front side of the back, and this piece on the back is the lining. When I turn it inside out, you can see how this blue flannel is going to wind up inside. So when you do this to make your pages, and if you make a mistake, you can decide whether you want to use it or not. Ooh, I already just ripped my fabric. This one was really extra thin, so it might really benefit from having this lining. I knew this fabric was thin. It's an old curtain, and I knew it was falling apart. I actually kind of like the way it looks when it rips, so I might embroider around that when I quilt this page. Yeah, I think I might make that into like a little interesting design. But you can see I've got my front, another front, and inside, this is the lining. We won't see it, but it's what makes a quilt warm if you stitch through lots of layers of thin cotton. I didn't turn this corner back out. It's bothering me, so I'm going to stick it here to push it out. That cotton batting is now in the middle, and when we sew through both layers to quilt, we're going to sew all the way through all 3 layers. And what makes a quilt is 3 layers. All right, so if you are doing this at home and you're like, oh, what order do I put all of the pieces in? I'm just going to remind you with 3 that I've got here. Here's a front, here's a front, and in this case I'm choosing this white stripe as my lining. That means that the front sides should be facing for these 2 that are going to wind up on the outside, and the lining is going to go on the bottom so that when we turn it inside out, it will be on the inside. And then you might want to draw your line if you're hand sewing. You can use a pencil to draw a U shape And I say U because it has 3 sides. This isn't the greatest color to see in the video, but hopefully that's good enough. You're going to sew 1 side, 2 sides, and 3 sides, and you're going to leave that 4th side open because that's the side you're going to use to turn this inside out when you're finished. And this is the open side that will be left in the binding of the book in our last step, which is coming up. We're almost done. I hope you're ready to finish these books.